Hey everyone, this is Marcus and I'm working on the graph. Welcome to the very first episode of Devs on the Graph. It is an interview series where I'm going to be interviewing developers who are building on the graph. And in this very first episode, we have Tellor, a decentralized Oracle protocol, and two developers who are building on Tellor. We have Spuddy as well as Ryan, and they go into a little bit about themselves, their Web3 values, as well as how they are building using the graph. So I hope you are as excited as I am to share this with you today. If you are able, please stay to the end where Spuddy takes us through a walkthrough of using their tech and actually spins up some of the tech that they are using to interact with the Tellor Protocol. So go ahead, stick around. If you are looking for links of anything, they're down in the description, specific to contact the devs at Tellor as well as to watch the video of the workshop walkthrough. So once again, my name is Marcus. I'm working on the graph and I'm very excited to bring this to you today. Enjoy. I want to ask you two, we have Spuddy and Ryan on right now. I want to know where you guys were raised. Tell me about some things that make you who you are today and how that influences what you build every single day for Tellor.
Ryan, you got to go first.
I'll go first. Grew up in San Diego, California, so California guy myself. Went to school at UC Santa Cruz, got a degree in business management economics, and then went into the hedge fund retail world. We were a retailer for hedge funds, where I kind of started going down, got a little gold bug fever, and then I started going down the whole Fed rabbit hole. This was around like 2011, 2012-ish. So knew Bitcoin existed, but didn't really click until around 2017 when there was some like DAO stuff tinkering around with Ethereum, and that's when I really went fully in.
Very cool. Spuddy, what about you?
I guess must have gotten into crypto about the same time in 2017, except I wanted an excuse to buy like the most powerful GPU that there was. So, and then I talked to my girlfriend at the time and I was like, hey, I want to buy this for mining crypto. I really just wanted to play games, but then I got into GPU mining, and everything snowballed from there. I didn't know much about what I was securing. I didn't really know much about smart contracts or how Ethereum works or anything. And I met Tellor in a bar. I met it was a meetup. It was like a local cryptocurrency meetup, and I met the guys that started Tellor, and I've learned a lot since then. I've learned all about smart contracts and the software that we make to interact with those contracts, and in general, I think cryptography is awesome. I like privacy. I like I don't really get excited by the crypto future that is big finance on the blockchain, like fintech on the blockchain, where everybody's KYC and we're all doing our banking on chain. I want crypto to stay weird personally. So that's me.
That's awesome. And I just want to say real quick, I love Santa Cruz. I love that you went to UCSC. I have lived on and off in Santa Cruz for many years. So just shout out to Santa Cruz right there. And Spuddy, you hit on it. Yeah, it's a great place. Spuddy, you hit on it about things you want to see, what you don't want to see in crypto. And I'd like to dive in a little bit more on that. For both of you, what are some values that you want to see in crypto more of? What do you appreciate and relate to? And then on the converse side, what do you wish was less prevalent?
Yeah, I don't know if this is such a hot take anymore, but I think about, the focus on token price. It's such a laggard indicator, and I mean, we're a very infrastructural company ourselves, so there's like we don't have to get caught up in the hype, which has been an awesome. This is my first job in crypto, by the way. This is my first like being on the inside as opposed to watching from the outside for a couple of years is totally different. And I'm super grateful that I'm at a place where we're just kind of really able to focus on the building and drown out the noise. So I know that token price is always going to be there, especially like this is kind of the bread and butter of just having value on the internet. But yeah, I think just understanding that the price is like the more you focus on it's like kind of watching paint dry. It's like, or was it a watch pot never boils kind of thing?
Yeah, tail wagging the dog. Very much so. I am right there aligned with you. What about you, Spuddy?
Anybody who knows Tellor can probably guess what I'm going to say. But one of my core values related to crypto is, I value things that are decentralized, like things that are built to be able to work without any kind of responsibility on the founders, or if the people running the network are all wiped away, I like to see some kind of system where there's incentives for more people to come and keep the system going. It's similar to proof of work Bitcoin mining. If one of the big Bitcoin mining operations goes away, there's going to be a profit opportunity for somewhere else, for someone else. And I would like to see more projects build things that are designed to work that way. So things can go on forever. I mean, even if regulators try to take it down, if governments try to take it down, there's like we value censorship resistance. I personally really value it. What I don't like to see is the opposite of that, which is projects building applications that are entirely dependent on the creators who hold more than half of the token, and they do these pretend governance votes for things. I'm not really into that.
Yeah, and it sounds, both of you, I relate to that so much. It's the way I like to put it is programmatically fighting the prisoner's dilemma, where we have an opportunity here in this space that I can relate with you guys immediately. We just met less than 15 minutes ago through Zoom, and already I feel like we're building toward that same vision, which it's unspoken for those builders that are heading in the right direction. The tokenomics, the token price, sure, that's going to be important. But at the same time, tail wagging the dog. We got to have our nose in the right direction that is for people first, and understanding the value sets within that, building on that in that North Star direction. That really excites me. And that's very motivating for myself, working very much so. So really cool, guys. The choices you guys had entering Tellor. This is, Ryan, you said your first job within Tellor. And I'm curious for you guys, in the role that Tellor plays, you guys are doing Oracle and Oracle technology. You're building Oracle protocol. And I want to see what motivated you to say, Oracle technology is the place that I want to be building. Why Oracles?
Yeah, so just to one up, or maybe it's not one up, but it's not a competition, Spuddy. But the way I got into this job, I was taking a coding class with our CSO, Mike Zemrose, and we just kind of hit it off. And then at the end of the class, it was a Solidity programming class. I learned very little, but Mike and I kind of bonded on that, and I got into that. So again, I kind of like came into it with a very limited amount of Oracle knowledge. But through my time here, it's been so cool to be part of something so infrastructural and so important to the blockchain ecosystem. Now I'm like, it's very important to be able to connect the real world to these blockchains that are kind of, they're very limited, narrow-minded in terms of what they can actually know. So that's what kind of keeps me going.
Yeah, we're motivated by solving the Oracle problem for smart contracts. The way Tellor does it, anybody can find data on the internet, encode it in a way that smart contracts understand, and it can be verified and then disputed if it's incorrect. We think it's a great solution. The Oracle problem, it predates crypto. I don't really think that it's been solved by, people who provide a service where they write Oracle data on chain for projects to use. Then if those individuals are compromised, then the Oracle is also compromised. So I really don't think that solves it. I don't know if Tellor solves the Oracle problem with air quotes, but I think we have a pretty great solution.
Yeah, and I was looking at that solution, and it seems granular, where anyone can participate in Tellor, in that it is a permissionless protocol, it is a decentralized protocol. And I want to talk about that specifically, where if anyone can participate, what are they doing and what advantages does that have where anyone can be an agent within your protocol? Do you feel like that provides extra value to the data that is being processed in Tellor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's our core component is the fact that we're not whitelisting the people that can come on, and the way that we're able to do that is because the crypto economics and tokenomics are sound enough to be able to play that game theory out, so that there's no curation that has to come from the core team itself.
The next thing that I think of when I was first introduced to the world of blockchain and Web3, when I'm thinking, okay, Oracle, first thing I was introduced to was Chainlink and seeing what they're building. And I want to see if we can take a moment to compare and contrast what you guys are building with Tellor, and then say, hey, this is what Chainlink is building. Both are attempting to solve the Oracle problem. How are you trying to solve it differently than Chainlink?
I'll start with the short one, and then Spuddy, you can elaborate if you want. But yeah, I actually kind of I can definitely check me on this, but I feel like you're choosing. We had this slogan in the past couple conferences where it's make the decision, to choose fintech or censorship resistant. And then I kind of came up with this idea of like you're choosing to trust a brand or trust the software. And that's kind of where our foundation, our fundamentals are kind of going all the way back to Bitcoin. Is like we want to make this thing as independent as possible from the creators itself, so that it can kind of have that sustainability.
And that goes into the granularity that I was discussing there, Ryan. Spuddy, what do you have to add to that about the differences between Tellor and Chainlink?
So with Chainlink, people get data that's aggregated from multiple nodes, and that's their decentralization, of the Oracle. But then their contracts are also upgradable via a multi-sig. So if they ever want to make changes to their contracts to blacklist a user, they can just they can upgrade their contracts and say, this user, you can't use Chainlink anymore. If a regulator pressured them to do that. I kind of jumped right to that doomsday point right there, which I didn't mean to do. But that's usually one of the first things I bring up, because with Chainlink, you trust the Chainlink company that they're going to provide your data they use a lot of the agreements between Chainlink and its users happen off chain, which is it's just very different. With Tellor, you tip the oracle, and then every reporter on the network can see that tip, and they race to submit that data so that they can claim it. And that's the nutshell difference.
And I want to just say one thing. You guys are both, and any other Oracle protocol out there is doing their darndest to solve this issue. And will this ever be completely solved? I don't think that is the right way to look at it. I think this is a ongoing battle that every day has to be attended to. Maybe less a battle, more like a garden, just tending to that garden of, can we keep this Oracle data as accurate and also decentralized as possible? And of course, this is a scale. This is a scale of how far one direction or another does anyone want to go. And I'm rooting for you guys. I'm rooting for Chainlink. I'm rooting for this Oracle garden to really have a very nice type of tending to every single month, year, day, hour, second. And you guys are doing really great work with that. I want to ask, to that point, who are your users that you are seeing use the data that you are providing the most and the most often? What are some interesting use cases that you guys are seeing being put upon you guys as Tellor protocol builders? What are you seeing your protocol being used for?
Yeah, I mean, the most... Go, Spuddy. Go for it.
I was going to say, we are used by Liquidity and forks of that protocol as a backup to Chainlink. So far, that's Tellor's bread and butter. They're using the bread and butter. I don't like saying stuff like that, but anyway,
okay. I'll be the one saying I'll be the one saying cheesy things here. It's okay.
Yeah, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way that I said that, but. We're used as a backup to Chainlink. So they're using Chainlink's data, which is update, like say it's the ETHUSD feed. They're updating that for free all the time. So these are DeFi contracts, maybe like a lending protocol like Liquidity. They will just pull that Chainlink feed that's updated continuously, and they can use that data for free. They can pull that into their contract. But then if that value is stale for a number of hours, or if a Chainlink value is submitted that's wildly different from the previous value, then their Chainlink feed shuts off and they fall back to Tellor. That is a great use case for Tellor. We're a great primary Oracle also, but yeah, so that's what we've seen so far. We're also really good at custom data. So if you want some kind of data that Chainlink doesn't provide, we can get that worked up relatively quickly and not charge an arm and a leg for the dev work.
Very cool. And I like how, and you felt a little sheepish earlier, Spuddy, about saying the doomsday scenario of what happens if, but I feel like that is a value proposition where you guys can be a what happens if Oracle, where if something happens, we'll just say that, you guys are going to be functioning and you guys have that capacity to provide data in a unbreakable way. And that to me shows the value through and through. Let's go into a little bit more detail specific to the actual participants. And I want to be very clear for the listeners here about the roles that they are doing. And you brought up tips, you brought up certain ways that people are participating. Let's talk about the roles, the incentives to those roles, and then we'll do a follow-up question after that about if anyone's interested in participating, how they might do that. So let's start with the roles first, and then we'll talk about incentives next. Let's start with Ryan. Ryan, you got that one?
Yeah. So there's two main components here. is you have the users. These are the people that are querying the data. They're requesting the data, if you will. And then you have the reporters that are getting that data on chain. These reporters, we use proof of stake, so they're going to stake a specified amount of TRB, depending on what chain you're on. And then once they're staked, then they'll be able to report.
What chains are those, by the way?
It's kind of a hefty list. We have our contracts reference on our docs, but I mean, most notable ones we're on Optimism, Arbitrum. Basically, we're heavily focused on the EVM compatible chains, and we're also on a couple.
I had the list ready. Actually, the list
Oh my
is
gosh.
Nice,
Ethereum, Ethereum, Polygon, Gnosis Chain, Optimism, Arbitrum, and Filecoin FVM. Right,
multi-chain future. I love it. Okay, so we've got the users, we've got the people who are providing the actual data, and those are the reporters. Let's keep on going.
Yeah, there was another component here. So there's the TRB token holders. They're another player in the system where anybody holding the token can dispute any of the data that comes through. So if there's a reporter that's bringing on malicious data, they will dispute that entry, and then that essentially gets taken off chain and goes to a vote. And this is kind of where, as from a user perspective, we highly recommend from our best practices to leave a little bit of a time delay to allow for this period of possible dispute, because essentially, all data is subjective, and the longer that you can let it sit on chain, just like for Ethereum blocks, the longer that block is unforked, then the more you can rely that it won't be changed.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to hop in on that and start participating, they can just simply go to your website, check it out, and just read the docs from there. Is there anything else they should know about that?
We have on the Tellor blog, there's a guides section. There's some great guides there for how to set up the Telliot client software. I don't have one for the disputable values monitor yet, but there's a client that token holders could run, or I don't know if I highly doubt any token holders are running it right now, but we encourage the users to run it. It will monitor every submission that comes in, and it will check it against multiple APIs. And if there's a significant difference, you can get a text message, or it can even automatically dispute a value.
Awesome. So let's bring it to Bedrock, where the vision and values of Tellor are to be a Bedrock oracle, if I may say so, and saying this is what you guys can do in a truly decentralized data. Do not have any type of restriction of that data. You want that to be free and open and running through your protocol 24/7. And a part of that I want to bring up is that you've recently migrated your subgraph to the graph network, the decentralized network of indexers. And I want to question you guys about how that has been as a process, and also the motivation to migrate your subgraph that you are providing to your front end from the hosted service to the decentralized network.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially, we understand that this is the end goal, because you guys have the graph has an awesomely built out ecosystem of players, just like Tellor itself. I think personally for me, I was very curious to kind of dive deeper into that, where the hosted aspect was a little bit more kind of lay back and let the graph foundation take care of it. So it's been a really awesome experience to get that more granular hands-on approach with the community itself, and understand how these different players are, decentralized and providing this data for us. And it's just kind of allowed me a lot more insight into how we can kind of get our own ecosystem more translated.
Spuddy,
Our front end is the functionality of the front end is a key component to Tellor security because, one way that Tellor values are checked is people can see them on a site that we call the data feed, and you could just visually see if the value is correct or not. So that's important. It's very important.
Yeah. Being able to write accurate data is great. Being able to read it is also great.
Right.
So when you guys are looking at your stack, you guys are building on a lot of different chains. And now that you guys are on the graph network of indexers, what does that mean to you in terms of the decentralized, unbreakable stack that you guys are building?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't entirely require the Tellor Protocol and game economics don't necessarily require the graph decentralized network, but I think it's very important to align, like you kind of mentioned, with the players that be in this space that have those same fundamentals, because I think we do learn a lot from each other, and I think we do kind of piggyback a lot in terms of just supporting this narrative that this world in which we're not necessarily dependent on the corporation itself and like abstracting a lot of the trust away, as opposed to trusting the game theory and the economics itself. For me, I think that's what's most important about using guys like you or the companies like you, the graph.
Yeah, my favorite quote that I always go back to when I consider decentralization is decentralization isn't important until it is.
Right.
And
absolutely.
When it's important, you're like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Thank goodness that we did that. And that is what the North Star is that we started with in this conversation about having this value set really dialed in and saying, why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And what are we building towards? If you want to keep it, nearsighted, in my opinion, then sure. Then these little, I'm not going to say little, these other solutions might work. But for the permanence and quality of long-term looking, I feel like having a decentralized stack is super motivating for me. And I can tell for you guys.
Yeah, just to piggyback a little bit too. I just wanted to mention, like, the Tellor core protocol, like the reporter network and the disputing, doesn't necessarily require the graph, but the data feed, as Spuddy mentioned, has been such a cool and important experience for just the human readable aspect of that, and having that kind of secured by a larger decentralized network is super paramount.
Awesome. So I know that we have a portion next that I want to go into, and I asked you guys, hey, Tellor dudes, would you guys be willing to show and tell a workshop? And if you're listening on the podcast, awesome. Thank you for listening thus far. I'll provide a link in the description to go to the video portion of this, where I will share the video recording of a little workshop that we're going to go through and show some of the more technical elements that may interest devs listening here. So let's go ahead and switch over to that right now. And who will like to share their screen? Is this going to be Spuddy or Ryan sharing their screen?
It's going to be me.
Go for it. Take it away, sir.
Okay.
What are we going to be doing on this workshop today? Looking at your stack.
I should be sharing now. Okay. And we were thinking that this would be a great opportunity to show our client software, Telliot. For people watching, it's kind of similar to the command line client for Ethereum, Geth and Prism. So like the Ethereum community maintains the client software that their software is peer-to-peer, and it secures the network. Our client software is not peer-to-peer, but it is the software that you want to run if you want to interact with the Tellor contracts. If you want to be a reporter, report data, this is what you use. And I think it'll be interesting for people to see.
Awesome. So let's get started.
All right. Now I have to let's close that window because that's all we needed that for. So you guys should be able to see a terminal.
Yep.
I made the text bigger, so it'll be a little bit easier to see. This is like a fresh Amazon AWS instance. I'm not an advocate of using AWS. I think, that it creates a point of centralization in itself. But for illustrating Telliot on a walkthrough, this is like the easiest way to get a fresh Ubuntu to show how to install it. So here we go. One thing that's really important, first off, is Telliot requires Python 3.9, 3.8, 3.10. It's not going to work. It's a Python program. It runs on Python 3.9. So I'm just going to show the Python version check. It's 3.9. Clear. Now let's create a Python virtual environment. A Python virtual environment's a really useful way to run a Python program because Python programs share dependencies, and you don't want to mix dependencies with other programs because they might be different versions. So I'm going to make a virtual environment. Okay, so now I can see that I'm in my virtual environment that's called Tenv, and I'm going to install Telliot. It's a pip install. I could pretend I'm typing all of this really fast.
Don't worry, I'll edit this out so it's nice and snappy.
It's already done. It's already done. Yep. So now I can check that everything installed correctly with pip freeze. Pip freeze shows you all the packages that are installed, and I can see I have Telliot core and Telliot feeds. And so the next command you run is Telliot config init. And now, we have a Telliot folder. In this Telliot folder, there are configuration files. I'm going to open, there's really only one file that we need to edit for this little quick walkthrough, and it's endpoints.yaml. So I'm going to edit that with nano. And endpoints.yaml, this is all of the networks that Tellor is on and all of the corresponding test nets. There's even some networks that aren't running anymore, like Rinkeby and Ropsten are still here, but we're going to use Sepolia. How do you say Sepolia?
I say Sepolia. I mean,
Sepolia. Okay. That's what I was thinking. We have some other team members that say Sepolia.
Yeah, I've heard different pronunciations for Sepolia and a few others. Yeah,
Girly.
Yeah, girly. Yeah, that's.
So this is just my free Infura account that I made. I'm going to grab the Sepolia endpoint. Whoops. Oops. Whoops again. Okay, that'll do it. So now we have a node endpoint configured for Sepolia. Okay. There's just one more thing we need to do before we can report data. So it's actually a pretty quick process. Since Telliot is going to call Ethereum functions, we need to set up an address. We need to give it the private keys for an address that we're going to use that has TRB and gas. So I went ahead and set up this wallet in advance that has some Sepolia gas, and it's got 500 Sepolia TRB. If you're watching this and you need TRB, you get that by sending me a message, long story short, or you can tweet at the Tellor Faucet Twitter account, and the Twitter account will send you some testnet TRB for whatever testnet you're using.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description for how to reach out to Spuddy.
Cool. Yeah, just message Spuddy. It's the fastest way. I'm going to grab the private key off screen, even though it's just a testnet address. So if you guys drain my Sepolia wallet, you're just a jerk. Here we go. Telliot account. So now I'm going to use a Telliot command. Telliot account. Man, got to type. Add. What should we name this thing? Let's name it. We'll name it
Marcus.
Ben, since there's a lot of funny Twitter stuff going on right now. That's the private key, and then so you give it the command is Telliot account, add the name of the account, the private key, and then the network that you want to report on. And the network ID for Sepolia is this 1115511. Create a password for Ben. There we go. So now we can, so the next step is this address needs to stake some TRB to be able to report. The stake works like a security deposit. So if you submit bad data and you get disputed, those tokens, your stake tokens will be moved to the governance contract while the voting happens. But anyway, we have to stake to be able to report. I'm just going to do a report command, and you'll see the stake transaction happen before we submit a value. So here we go. Telliot report account. Then what should we submit? We can submit TRB. The next, hold on a minute. I'm going to clear the screen because this is all, I'm going to type a bunch of flags, and then I'll kind of,
if there's any edits that need to happen, I'm happy to just chop it up a little bit. So yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, so I'm going to type out a command that's going to start the Telliot process, and I'll talk about the flags that I'm using as I go. Telliot report, it's because we want to report. The account we're using, it's the one we just made. Next, I'm going to tell Telliot what query type I want to submit. Telliot knows how to submit a lot of different query types out of the box. If you go to Telliot feeds GitHub repo, and you go to the feeds folder, you can see all the different spot price feeds and there's lots of different kinds of unique data feeds that Telliot can submit. I'm going to do TRB. TRB, USD, spot. Telliot also checks for profitability, but since we're just doing a demonstration, I'm going to bypass that. The flag for bypassing profitability is YOLO. And next we're going to, again, we don't want to check for rewards. We don't want to check for profitability. So you need the NCR flag also. And now we can go. I know that was a long explanation, but Telliot is a powerful program that can do a lot of things for Tellor. I put in my password, and it's just asking me to confirm my settings. We're not enforcing profit threshold. All right, so now Telliot is working. We can see the approved transaction. We have to approve the governance. I'm sorry, we have to approve the Oracle contract to stake our tokens. That transaction went through. Here's the deposit stake transaction. And now it's going to submit a value. Oh my goodness, transaction reverted. So it's going to try again. It might have estimated the gas incorrectly the first time. There it is. So now I'm going to stop the program with Control-C, and it gives a link to the transaction right in the log. We can go to a browser and see our submit value transaction. We could also check the data feed. Whoop, there it is. It just succeeded. I got a reward of 6.7 Sepolia TRB. It's a pretty good reward.
Bad for a few minutes.
Yeah, so this is the Tellor data feed where we can see, this is the Tellor data feed that uses the graph. And you can see the report. It's right there. There's my address. There's the value we submitted. So TRB USD at this moment, it's $12.20.
Awesome.
So yeah, just real quick,
Awesome.
but if you go back to the data feed, we use that graph essentially for the list of report tables that's at the top. And then we also use it for that tip table at the bottom. That's going to show any tips that have come through from a user that the reporters can check out and report for.
Awesome. And I feel like this is a fantastic place to wrap it up, where you have shown the power of Tellor and also shown how the graph is being used. And I just want to thank you for your time. This has been a really cool demonstrations, live too, Spuddy. No pressure whatsoever. You pulled it off.
I set up Telliots and you know, it's one of the things that I've done at Tellor is to run the software and break it and make GitHub issues whenever I don't know how to fix it.
I mean, when it came up with that little error and it was like, oh, and you were so calm. You were like, oh yeah, it's just going to be checking. It'll be fine. I was like, all right, Spuddy, you got it. So it was cool.
Yeah.
So anyways, Spuddy, Ryan, Spuddy of Tellor, thank you guys so much for your time. And if anyone wants to reach out to you guys, just send me your contact information. I'll put it in the description for this video as well as on the podcast. And for those of you listening and watching, thank you so much for listening and watching. I am looking forward to seeing you on the Web3 space soon, just out there floating around in a decentralized fashion. If you want to get more involved with Tellor or the graph, I'll put some more links down in the description as well. Anything you want to add to finish, Ryan or Spuddy?
I don't think so.
Choose censorship resistance.
Love it.
Yeah.
Make the choice.
Love it.
Yeah, I think you should feel free to use all of it. It was perfect.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. And I'm going to stop the recording now. Listeners, thank you for taking part of Devs on the Graph. I'll be here for the next one. Take care, guys.